let's have a bit of a look at Bitcoin. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Like, sub, share, and comment. This is the big picture. These are the megatrends. Here you can see some of the sectors. Here are some other markets. So let's just jump into the cryptos. Specifically, Bitcoin versus the US dollar. So here is the seasonality, percentage of months in which the pair closed higher than it opened. You can see that December is a bit of a mediocre month, 50-50 for Bitcoin. January is very weak, but February is super strong. But March is really weak, hence you could make a strong case that we are heading towards a season that is problematic for Bitcoin, historically, because this is historical data. Okay, so here is the chart. Okay, one of the things about Bitcoin is that it has a very nasty habit of having huge rallies and big bear markets. So it's such a bipolar security. If you go back here, let's actually zoom in a bit, just to sort of like get the history, okay? So sort of like we can get the theme. So here you have Bitcoin, and then they enter the euphoric mode. Let's actually measure. So this was between 2013 and the end of 2013, actually. So you can see how quick this euphoric rally was, 1,485%, but we topped out and we crashed a whopping 92% from the highs. And then we have a period of depression. We find support at the 200-week moving average in red, and then we rally. Initially, you see we behave like a normal security. We go up, we go down, we test the support levels. This is healthy. But as usually happens, we get into a more euphoric phase. First, we have some corrections, but then it gets super euphoric. So the last phase, it goes nuts. So this is like, one of those charts of investor psychology. You have, depression, then people start to load up on their positions, but you still have some rationality in the market. But then you get this euphoric fear of missing out phase, which is followed by the bubble popping and a total crash back to the 200-week moving average. And now we are entering towards the current times. Here you have clear skepticism. You get the inverse head and shoulders pattern, shoulder, head, shoulder, very bullish pattern. And then we rally. So is this a euphoric phase, just like we have seen before, and is this like a big crash? If you look at the previous euphoric phases, like this one, let's actually measure how long they were euphoric. So this one was euphoric for 56 days. If you look at this one, I think we could argue that, from this level is the euphoric phase. 91 days of euphoria. Okay, so if you look here, well, let's actually go back to this week. 77 days. So based on the previous euphoric rallies, there's a risk that we have pushed it a bit too far. There's a risk. You also have the argument here of a double top. The latest candlestick for this week was pretty ugly. The people who are the subscribers to the newsletter, they were alerted about the risk of this because of the RSI levels. Because if you look at RSI, overbought levels on weekly RSI, and the Bitcoin can stay overbought for a longer period, but it is certainly the high risk situation. You need to be very careful about where you have placed your stops when Bitcoin is overbought on the weekly data points. Because when there is this overbought level and there's a correction, it can become very, very substantial. And the current correction, it is a bit nasty. So let's go here to the daily data points to get a bit more nuanced picture. So we have slashed through here the 20-day moving average. If you look at the weekly data points, we are way far away from certainly the 200-week moving average, which historically, as we saw, has been a very good level to get a very long-term position. So the big question at this point, okay, what is this? Is what's happening here, is this a sell-off similar to what happened here when you have this total crash? Obviously, that's very difficult. It's very difficult to make that call. I do think it's very unfortunate that we had this kind of a rally. I would really have wished that we had done something more rational and more sustainable. So something like this. Go up, load up, and then we can make that breakout. And without becoming, overbought. What happened here is that we sort of like did everything in one swoop. This was Euphoric. And it was a very unfortunate time to get Euphoric because there was a very real risk. There was a risk of forming a double top, and that's what we currently have. Hence, yeah, it is a tricky situation here for Bitcoin. This is what we should have avoided, but when there is this euphoria, it is very hard to stop the bulls. They sort of go nuts and they just run far ahead. I think that what is very good is that we have formed a very big base. Hence, there are many horizontal support levels. And hence, if this correction continues, then there's many levels here, especially around this territory where there's been a lot of volume, and we would expect buyers to step in. Hence, we could get a situation where Bitcoin goes down a bit and then shuffles a bit sideways like it did here, because you see here that we did spend a whopping 952 days, more or less going sideways before we did have a breakout. Ideally, I think we should do something, okay, maybe not that long, but to spend a bit more time cooling down while making progress and then make that big breakout and never again see these prior highs. Okay, so to sum up my take on Bitcoin, long term, looking over the coming years, then I am bullish Bitcoin. Looking at the coming months, I feel less comfortable. I did not like this euphoric rally. I liked this a lot because this was measured. We pull back, find support, and then rally, pull back, find support. But it never ends well. This always ends in tears. It is possible for the Bitcoin bulls to prevent, a more aggressive crash. Because the good news is that unlike the prior highs, like here and, back in time, there is far more institutional players at this point, hedge funds, and, there's talk about, mutual funds also looking a bit at this business, the whole crypto space, and that will create a situation where Bitcoin hopefully will start to behave like a normal security. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, and there's no longer these euphoric rallies and total crashes. But yeah, I do think that the coming months are going to be a bit more dicey because of primarily this. I think that what we should blame here for the nasty week we had to this week is this euphoria. This is the one we should be angry at, not people who are selling here. Because one of the most important factors in the stock market is psychology. Whatever you do, of course, you want to be careful in this market because it is a bit wild nowadays. But as long as you let the trend be your friend, you respect the signals you get, then you can make money going, of course, long, being bullish, but you can also be short. So there's always opportunities out there. Hence, even though there are many the Bitcoin bulls that are now pissed, especially the ones that entered a bit late here, there are bears who are looking at a big profit. So always be able to adapt to the situation. But yeah, the coming weeks and months for crypto, for Bitcoin specifically, is going to be very, very interesting.